everyone, it is Dlamini-Gibixego here for you, and welcome to part 3 of the 4-part series called My Best 20 that goes parallel to my blog, My Best 20 at wordpress.com. We've come a long journey, and we left off talking about the top 10. So we entered the actual top 10, right? Yeah, so we discussed the bottom 10 of the top 20. Now we entered the top 10 of the top 20. We started off with Mr. Potential. We went through to Entanglement. We did Miss Juicy. And then we did Abantu Bay and closed off the bottom 15 with Climate Change Bay. So it's been really interesting, the responses that have come through. I absolutely love them because somewhere, somehow, I feel like I am a servant to the sexuality of Black women, because Black women have absolutely loved the blog. They and it's my fault, you know. I stopped writing for a little bit. Things got very hectic on my side and I had to just put it on hold. But we're closing it off now in the next couple of days, since we've just published Ibinga, which is number 3, and we want to publish number 2, the Backroom Data, and number 1, which is a special post that I've been thinking about for weeks. So what has happened is that people come through saying that, look, I've been in a committed relationship for a long time. Maybe our sex, life has wavered. There's something there with that first couple of weeks, first couple of months when you're still in the honeymoon phase, that makes the sex amazing. And then after a while, it becomes, repetitious mainly, or just less exciting. And that people always fear introducing new things. So what I did with this batch of 5 was starting to introduce new things. Starting to introduce things like toys, starting to introduce things like multiple partners, right? And okay, let's just get into it, and then we will look closely at each one of them. Mr. Potential is your typical corporate guy, and we met through a blind date. So there's a lot of that happening here in Joburg. People meet people on Tinder, online, through friends of friends. And this was sort of the first time I was set up on a blind date with someone. It actually ended up being a relationship. But that's not the point. But we need to always be careful, about how to do this online dating thing and how to make sure you're safe. For example, things like sharing your location with a friend. At least one other person must know, where you are, because it's dangerous out there. It's very dangerous, and predators are looking for us in that sort of way, ne? So that's a disclaimer. But this was a blind date, and you do a background check, a YouTube check, you Google check, all of that, and just see what's out there. But once you get together, what was funny with Mr. Potential was that he was very he was a very affectionate lover, right? And his love language was acts of service. And when you do acts of service for someone, simple things like how he does for Honey, let me run you a bath, Mr. Potential was like the guy who would run you a bubble bath, bring you your wine, ageze, aksul, and just literally tuck you into bed. He would do your laundry, hang it, fold it for you to take back to your place. He was that guy who just rocks up at work with chicken and cake and a person that does not show love by through statements or quality time, but through acts of service. And that's always something we need to think about, what is my love language? So how do I receive love? And then what is your partner's love language? How do they receive love? Because if they receive love through quality time, and when are you busy showing them acts of service, you're potentially disregarding their feelings, right? Because they want time with you, or physical touch, or words of affirmation. Google the 5 languages. It's very important in every relationship and in every friendship and every family member, because sometimes, a person can show you love in a way that you don't receive love. But that's another thing. So what was cool about Mr. Potential was, and I've just watched I'm gonna plug MacG's podcast here with Trevor Gumbi, where Trevor's literally talking about the P spot, right? The P spot, which is your prostate spot for guys. It's like a hella, a erogenous zone there, right? It's located. Okay, obviously the anatomy of every person is different, but let's say it's 2 centimeters in your bum, yeah. So there's one way to get, you can get through it on the outside, just underneath the guy's testicles, right? If you press hard enough, or if his anatomy allows it to be close by, or literally through the anus. 2 centimeters, it's not a lot, né? Careful with the acrylic nails, guys. So but then what Honey and Mr. Potential did was use a toy specially designed for the P spots. And you see Honey not sure what to do, not sure how to understand, and having the same questions that we always have around anal sex, and if your partner wants anal sex. And that's the thing with anal sex. There's a partner, a male, let's say you're a heterosexual couple, let's say the male partner wants to receive anal sex. That is much more acceptable to most women, because you don't actually have to do much except for the insertion, just 2 centimeters. However, if he wants to give you anal sex, that's different, because now you're receiving dick in your butt, and there's pleasure there. Many have attested to it. Many people do it, and it's absolutely fine. We must just always have that conversation about what does it mean, because it doesn't mean that you're gay. It does mean that you are, you can still be heterosexual and still enjoy giving or receiving anal sex. You see, sex doesn't make your sexuality. It doesn't make you gay. It doesn't make you lesbian. It doesn't make you anything except for a person that is willing to do stuff with their partner. Maybe you can say sexually liberated or experimental. So and this thing of anal sex with other men, and there's many names, derogatory names that have been given to people like that, and sometimes it's a power thing, then it's rape, then it's not consensual, and then it's not promoted, when it's a power thing. Because let's say you're a very powerful person and you want to dominate someone else by force, or purchase them for power relations. That definitely doesn't make you gay, just makes you a douche. However, there's something unique about a guy saying, look, ngicela arouse there by my P spots. And I mean, the two of you can always talk about it, use lubricants. There's many books that describe how to prepare for that and how to do it properly. But the key thing is consent, and the key thing of if you are doing that to your partner, then if you women are doing it to your male partner, you need to understand that it's not a power thing. It's a sexual thing. It's an energy thing. He wants to feel this different type of energy. You're going to provide it. You're going to compromise. It's a give and take. No? And I think a lot of people struggle to grapple with that particular aspect of things, which is very weird. God died. It happened with the Mr. Potential. It's very joyous to see that type of pleasure. And it's just part of it. There's no other meaning outside of sex pleasure, and if he asks that, it doesn't mean that he's gay, it doesn't mean that he's bisexual, it doesn't mean he's any other term. It just means that he wants to try something new. Okay, so I'm saying all of this to plead with women that man, do it kumnandi for them, and it's a one-sided pleasure, right? And a lot of sex is about that. Sometimes the other partner does not receive any physical pleasure. Maybe they just enjoy it. They just enjoy giving you that pleasure and stuff. But the P erogenous zone is exceptional, and you must try it. Do your research and do the right thing. The entanglement is a varsity story. It's a race story, and a lot of people felt it was cut short, and maybe it was, because how, at race, a lot of stuff happens at race, right? And we find Ohani and her housemate Ulili, who is really those girls that never dated varsity guys, and they always dated outside guys, and the guys would always come with like McDonald's and stuff. I nearly was not that person. I was like always dating my peers, always dating classmates, and Mr. Entanglement is that person, and we describe this varsity love, which is pure and cute and but very serious, But the sexual experience there comes when this guy comes through, and they start touching each other, and then you and your person are also touching each other. And it's a low version of an orgy, and that's probably how orgy starts, right? So entanglement is a story of the orgy, where you have multiple partners having sex in the presence of each other. And there's something unique about watching sex, and I know there's a term for it, and I'll put it on the screen, where there's enjoyment in watching another person being pleasured. And I think that's the joy of porn. That's the joy of watching, of videoing yourself having sex with someone and watching it later. Okay. But it's okay. Obviously Heini did not want to go further and now to swap partners, because now that's a different thing, especially since these two are in a couple and these two are still in finding each other fling phase. And when you do things like that with strangers, it's easy, because then it's whatever your discomfort, whatever anything happens, it's bye, see you later, bye, forever. Kodwa if you guys are going to still be in the presence of each other, that's been ngakhuluma before, because wow, if I've seen how your man lays strokes, how he lays dick, or how he sucks your vag, and there's an intimate scene of hanging watching Ubegi, I think, give head to Lily. And man, there's just something there. There's just something there with orgies. There's something there about the sexual chemistry being like elevated throughout the entire experience. And it's quite cool. It's very cool. And I'll always, I'll always recommend, an experiment like that, which which would start with a conversation, and also to say what I'm comfortable and what I'm not comfortable with. I'm not comfortable with watching my person penetrate someone else. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with my friend's partner sleeping with me, penetrating me. You know, I'm also not comfortable with that. I can kiss her, I can kiss her, I can kiss him, and everyone can kiss each other, but there's always that other level that comes with the orgies. And it's so everyone's on the couch, you know, the energy is high, the sexual chemistry is high. Everyone's high also because we've been drinking a lot, and the drinking also elevates doesn't elevate the inhibitions, so your inhibitions are very low. So sometimes you might do stuff that you were not necessarily planning to do, or that you were comfortable on doing. What I liked about the entanglement was the little conversation that they had. Entanglement, you know, honey, in the bathroom, just be like, hey babe, are you okay with this? What should we do? Must we continue? So it's quite cool. It's quite cool. So yeah, yeah. Then we have Miss Juicy. Okay, so Miss Juicy for me, because if you remember how the story started, how the best 20 started, it was Umsende and Honey talking to each other about how she's like, I would dog, I'm 30. I'm like, of course I've slept with more than 20 people. I've been having sex for 15 years, right? Which is on average, like, you know, if you're 30, okay, maybe not 15, maybe 12, 10 years, depending on when you started having sex. But I mean, or 20K, it happens very quickly. It happens very quickly because if you're not in a committed relationship right away, you know, and you're faithful right away, it does happen that, you know, you date more often, you try new things, you have more one night stands, you know, you do all the stuff that we've spoken about here with the best 20. And so they've been talking about it, and Ujusi came as Umsenti, trying to relieve the stress from Hani. So Hani's had to recollect the emotions and everything else that has come from talking about all of these past lovers. So Umsenti can see, no man, Hani is not okay. Let me share, you know, and just, you know, while she catches her breath. And so this piece is written through the eyes of a man, and that was very difficult for me as a writer, because I don't know what men like. It always appears that men just like, you know, they just like sex. They don't care about the pre and the post. It always appears that even when they watch porn, they don't even want to know what the story or the context is. They just want to forward to the sex. So it was very difficult for me, and but I managed, and it was quite cute, because we got to see how men experience our bodies and their sort of fears as well. And with Umsenti, what Umsenti does is talk about office romance. So him and Ujusi worked together. So she was an intern and he was a senior yak. And that's a very interesting dynamic, because in this day and age, that's sexual harassment is very known, very conscious of it. You know, like in the workplace, no matter how much you hunger for someone, you can't act on it, especially if it's going to be derogatory, right? You know, things like, you know, spanking someone's ass, or commenting on their boobs, or commenting on their length of their skirt, or, you know, their cleavage and things like that. But the thoughts still happen, right? And I had a conversation with this with a few of my friends over my birthday weekend, who would say, look, we can all be pervs. And sometimes it happens that you go into a meeting and you're not guy, and he's just hot, and you're and you has born like this like flashes of just the two of you in intimacy, you know, you smell him and you're like, you know, engulf into uzibona, hey, I'm compromised here. Kodwa-ke, as a same human being, you sort of don't act on that because that's rapey. And that's grounds for sexual harassment. So you keep your thoughts to yourself, and you don't approach a person. If you do approach them, as it has to be in a manner that is respectable to all parties involved. That's the thing with office romance. You see, it's not just two parties. The other party is actually the institution that you guys are working for. That also has to be considered. Right, so Cindy has his, you know, what you see is hot. Yamfuna. And up until her resignation, I think her contract ends, and then she has to go back to her fiance. She's about to get married, yada yada yada. She's having problems with the fiance. What I liked about this dynamic was that she realizes that her husband or fiance is toxic, and wants to pay back basically. So she uses Musenge, and I love this thing of you need to understand that anyone using people for sex, consensual sex, is for anyone. Ne? So she literally says, look, Teko and I having problems. I've always wanted to be with this guy like you said. So take me home and fuck me hard. And that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. For a person to say, for a person to admit to. And she was very intentional about it, because when the other colleague left after work drinks, she's like, I'm going home with you, guy. And when they got to the parking lot, she went and gave him head, emotweni, you know, just to be like, hey, my guy, we're doing it. And this, please allow me to use you. Please give me access to you. Ne? And Cindy gives access when they go up into the bedroom, and they do the thing. And nothing ever happens after. You know, it's very common that we have sex and then it be done, you know, without the complications, without talking about it too much, without all of these other things that we love to complicate sexual experiences with, men. And yeah. I loved Juicy for that. Miss Juicy. This, I'm getting married, but I want to fuck you before my person has been cheating for whenever, for however long. And anyway, okay, is we'll never know. And he said he did his job, and that was it. I love it. Then we have Abantu Bay. Abantu Bay bafethu. I have one thing to say. Leave intellectual base alone. By again. Got that case. What can you say? You know, you meet someone randomly, and he speaks your language, and he understands your interests, and he takes interest in your interests, and it's chemistry at first sight. What I loved about Abantu Bay was his structure. You know, that hug that's ungena nje into that hug, and you are engulfed, and you can feel what, you know, manje insizwa la, manje insizwa yakubo yakhona, ngibanjwe indoda and ngiyayifuna, and you just become wet same time. Abantu Bay was that person. Nothing exceptional about him, nothing except for the brains, you know. But there's that commanding kiss, that kiss of, you are going to melt. You are going to melt. Do not find love at Abantu Book Fest. I'm telling you. It'll end in tears. It'll end in revolutionary tears, in literary tears. Because you know what? You know what people like Abantu Bay do? They say the right things. They walk the walk. They talk the talk. No, they talk the talk. They don't walk the walk. They know how feminists think. They know how they've read the literature. So they can rhetoric to you. Now is one I know, okay, it's the right thing to do. And then you then discover that they're just like everyone else. They will just use you. They will sell you dreams and they will fuck you and they will leave you. They will not be honest with you and tell you to look, this is what I wanted to do. In the end, no, I won't do that. They instead will play they'll be the egoist. They will be the all of these things. They will quote Fanon. They will quote Chimamanda. They will Chinua Achebe you like crazy, and you're just there like, oh my god, an intellectual companion. Don't fall for it. I've done Abantu Bay 3 times, 3 different Abantu Bays in that particular story, and all of them are nonsense. But anyway, they continue to be resource people, right, in one's life. Be careful. Don't say I didn't warn you. Don't say I didn't warn you. To close off this batch of 5, we have Climate Change Bay. Mr. Researcher Bay. Now, another intellectual Bay. But here we introduce officially the idea of a multiple people in the sexual experience, right? So it's a threesome. Climate Change Bay and his wife, or Mrs. Climate, is a couple that looks like love. They look like couple goals. They look like everything's together. Their finances are flourishing. A wife in corporate, a husband executive director of a research institution, brilliant minds, brilliant conversations, and sexually, maybe not quite finding each other, maybe missing each other in some places. So kwenzeke kanjalo ke Climate Change Bay, where you get to a research conference and you're like in the team, organizing stuff. I've met this guy. I know it's that guy who bought me champagne that other day, wada. And you're like, this world is small. But you reconnect. And what I loved about Climate Change was the first night that they spent together with Honey, they didn't physically do sex. They cuddled, they touched each other's bodies. He made her come, he humped, he I don't know if it's dry humping. Yeah, he dry humped her till he came. But you need to understand the intimacy of a non-penetrative sexual experience. It's very intimate because going into someone's vagina is easy. It's easy. You thrash, you thrust, you cut. But making someone come, it's intimate because you have to feel each other's energy, you have to feel each other's bodies and move together, right, outside of a vagina penis. Yeah, well, so it was very intimate in that way, and very beautiful, and that he told his wife, You see, that's the thing with threesomes and open relationships, that people feel like if you're in an open relationship, you can cheat. No, no, you can't. An open relationship relies on like three key principles. Honesty, you have to disclose if you slept with someone else, right? You have to disclose. You have to um and if you want to invite them into your bed, you have to do tests, and you have to plan for it, and you have to make the third party comfortable with you as a couple, ne? And okay, so open relationships, it's transparency, being honest, making sure that the other person is safe always. So safe in terms of don't do colleagues, safe in terms of use condoms, safe in terms of um don't this sexual experience that you're having can't disempower someone else. So for example, if I sleep with your boss, yeah, well, now your boss knows that your wife is sleeping around or whatever. South Africa is not as forward thinking, you know. So you always have to be sure, just always just have low expectations in terms of people. People will not understand it. So always keep your partner safe, right? And number three, don't do it again. You can't have a parallel relationship. That's something else now, right? That's something else. That's a polygamy, that's a polyandry, that's a polyamory, what. But if it's an open relationship and it's for the sex, then tell me, hey babe, I met Steve um at the club. We did it in the toilet. It was cool. Let me go shower quick. I'll come back and have dinner. Yeah, well, we use protection. You don't know Steve. I will not see Steve again. It's those things that really matter and that really make it work. So, Mr. and Mrs. Climate Change, both bamshela bowu-two uHani. We don't know if it was the first person they've invited or not. Probably not. But they invited her. They instilled a friendship, yeah, well, so that she would say yes, and she said yes, and they booked in this amazing thing. So also, Jay, if you're going to be invited into a threesome, ngathi kungangaba i-back room, yabo, ngathi ngaba somewhere nice, somewhere where you can fully concentrate on the sexual experience and concentrate on the sexual dynamics at play, and make sure that the chemistry is where you need it to be, yabo. And if you need hormone supplements or enhancements, sexual enhancements, that you do them. I feel like a threesome is something that must be planned for. Yeah, well, especially if the two people are a couple, which usually is. I find it very difficult for three strangers to just agree to have sex somewhere and they do it, but they do, and that's also allowed. But I don't know. I don't know about the pleasure aspect. I'm always for this thing of make the environment enabling, make it safe for the sexual experience. And they did that, they paid for her, they ran her tests, yeah, well, because it's there's a lot of things at play. There's a lot of things at play, the sexual fluids, the sexual histories, that's all that you have to worry about is the sex, so by the time it happens, you've longed for it, you've researched for it, you've wanted it, and now you get to do it. So that was Honey's threesome. I think it was great. I think it was beautiful. I think it was beautiful. I think it was beautiful. I love Mrs. Climate Change, particularly as a confident person. It takes you to be very confident to allow another woman into your bed. It takes a lot of trust to your husband, and even in the dynamics of the sex, so if the three of you are in the sexual experience together, not that you are watching your husband and her have sex, and then you and her have sex, and then you and your husband have sex. No, all three of you are in it. So when he's going down on her, or when he's giving her doggy style, she's literally laying on the wife, and being aroused and caressed and kissed. You know, it's a very beautiful experience. And one again, I would definitely promote. Definitely promote. Um, yeah, so that leads us to our top five. Top five, so far so good. There's Cuddle Buddy, there's The Scholar, there's Ibinga, and then there's Backroom Dweller and the finale. So thank you so much for forming part of this particular journey, right? I've loved it. I've absolutely loved it. I've loved it, and I want it, you know. And I don't know what the plan is, you know. Maybe I'm thinking about expanding each of each of the men, expanding them, making each one a short story, yeah, or like a proper short story, and then publishing that, you know, as a story of Uhani, no Saint, as a couple, you know, and as a thing of what it's like dating in South Africa. You know, not all of us had the love of our lives meet us when we were 20 or 21, and then it's just been great ever since. Unfortunately, not all of us have had that particular experience. So many of us have had to go through dating. We've had to go through so many things. And now that I'm 30, different things, different dynamics altogether. So I do think that's a future possibility. Let me know if you'd like me to publish it better. Because you guys know it's a blog piece, it's short, 2,500 words, no real getting into the story. Yeah, well, and everyone always has questions about the characters, what happened, and but I also need to understand that these sexual experiences, you know, people who'd had sex with me, or Heini, or my friends, do not do it so that I can publish it. So there's also that consent value, that if I do publish them and make them more concrete, people would have to be hidden well. But you know what? Also, like, it's fiction. It's fiction. Otherwise, thank you so much for subscribing. Please subscribe to this page. I will be publishing the finale of this mini series in the next couple of weeks. We will close off on best 20 on a high, and we will get into another project. The other project, a hint, if you remember Vagina Monologues, that's where we're going. So please subscribe. It's very important to me. Please recommend and share. Please share this video with your friends, and talk about these particular conversations with your friends. Please do that. I absolutely need you to engage with my content. Connect my content creator. Connect with Tony sponsor, summer vibrator. Please. please follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. I am here for you, and the content will always be created for you. Thank you.